I want to say good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, those that are viewing and listening to the program. This is the Henderson Real News Show. Organize, don't criticize. As long as you live, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to think about one thing. If you want to change your life, your status, your family, and your community, you got to organize. You must not criticize the human enemies of mankind, their relatives and supporters, because it's not going to do you any good. You have to organize versus criticizing people. I'm going to say it over and over in this show and in my community talks, that if you think you are going to be received on an equal footing with others that have been denominating you since the early 1500s throughout the world, and specifically in what we call North America, you are fooling yourselves. So today we are going to go to part 3. And I will be talking about how to develop community leaders at the local, state, federal, and international level by creating what I call the new man. Now, I like to make things simple for those with a 3rd grade education up. And when you teach it to the child, others will pick it up because they're going to tell it to their friends. They're going to talk to their mothers and fathers about what they have learned, in most cases. And eventually, they will be in charge, as we say, of the economics, the politics, the religion, and leadership positions throughout the world, especially in what we want to put emphasis on today, the black community. Now, when you look at part 3, folks, we're going to be very clear. We're going to be clear now and tell you how to start creating the new man, the new woman, that's going to change the status of black people worldwide. And folks, I'm going to make this so simple until you are going to tell yourselves, you're going to talk to your family members, your churches, and your community organizations, and you're going to say, we can do this. We don't have to wait until we die and go to heaven. We can do this. We can change our status, our family, and our communities in 30, 60, 90 days if we start today. And since it's so simple to do this, I want you to record what you hear. Take notes on what you hear. Send information to your friends and others throughout the country and the world. Share it on your Facebook pages and others. And I tell you, folks, since it's going to be so simple, you're not going to believe that you can start changing your status, your family, and your community, which you must develop first, because black folks don't have a community anywhere in the world that I know about where they are self-contained and self-independent. Not one. We have neighborhoods. But today we want to start at the beginning. How do you create leaders to build a community? And some of you need to know this. All of you need to know it. Many of you already know this because I have gotten this information through research and through talking and through workshops and seminars and surveys and observation throughout the years. And I want to give you an example to show that if you don't train new people, starting with your leaders, you're going to be doomed to repeat what has happened to your generation since the 1500s to today, December 2023. Now, how do you build a new man in America, in the world? It's very simple. And the way you do it, folks, is to raise a successful child. That's all. Raise a successful child starting tomorrow or today. Some of you will have time when you settle down this evening to talk to your children, and some of you might want to do some of these things this evening. So the first thing you want to do if you want to change your status is to look at your home situation. Look at it and say, who is the dominant person here? Is it mother, father, or grandparents? If there are any adults there, one or two, one of them is usually the dominant person that provides the resources for survival in that household. And if there are some children there, their job is to be supported and to learn from the parents, whether they have any education or not. You don't need education to train children. It just helps if you have it. But education is something new for the people of the world, especially education beyond high school for the masses. Now here's what I want you to think about, ladies and gentlemen. When we talk about the development of leaders, you're going to find that your leaders usually were not trained specifically in the church. They were not trained in the schools. They were usually developed through mentorships, where they had a mentor. They had a group that they would get with when they were a certain age, 8, 9, 10, and learn a skill. If you wanted to be a medical doctor, you did not have to go to medical school. During the early years in the 1700s in America, you can get aligned with a doctor and watch him, travel around with him, and learn the operating procedures. Most people during the early days didn't attend law school, just a few. And you can get a law degree just by mentoring and observing the few lawyers in your community. They will teach you. And you didn't have to take a test to become a lawyer. Many times during the early days when he would write you off and say you're ready to practice law, you would go and get a certification, not a law degree, and you could practice law. You could become a medical doctor. And since I'm going to show you how to do this tonight, folks, you're going to say, we're going to be like the other folks. Do you think the Europeans that decided to create a new man started off at the bottom? Of course not. The founding fathers that I mentioned that started the American Revolution were new men. And keep this in mind. New men and a few men, not many. The founding fathers were the richest people in America. They had the best education and training. Many of them got 3rd to 8th grade education. And then they got mentored by others, and they learned skills and learned how to be lawyers and doctors and entrepreneurs. They learned military science by fighting and patrolling their communities. They were appointed to positions of responsibility because of their fathers and mothers, and because of the significant references they can get from the people that they mentored. Think about it. But if black people want to get ahead in the world, I'm talking about worldwide, they will have to do something a little different, and that is parents, mothers and fathers and grandparents. The recommendation that I have for you, wherever you are, you have to do one thing. And you got to follow this order that I have prepared for you today. And that is, if you have anyone 6 months or up to college age living in the house with you, you have to keep them in school, keep them in a training program starting in your home after you teach yourself and train yourself to the point where you can be a responsible provider for your children and your family. And you have to have some guidelines and requirements for your children. Keep them in school and expect them to maintain A's and B's in pre-K through college. You shouldn't allow them to fall beyond that standard, A's and B's. And don't tell me my child can't be an A or B student. That's average and above average. All children can be average and above average at the same time. It all depends on the degree of training they get from the family, starting at home when they're about 6 months of age. If you find your child is getting behind at home even before he starts school, if you didn't have the ability, the will, or the time to teach him his or her ABCs, how to count, how to write those ABCs, how to count to 100 before they are 2 years of age or 2.5, especially 3, that means you didn't do your job. You either didn't know how to do it, you didn't have time to do it, and you didn't have the thinking ability to find a tutor somewhere. And I'm not saying go and pay someone to tutor your child how to count and write the ABCs and how to talk about them, how to use simple sentences. You can always find one in your family, in your community, that have those skills, and teach it to your children, and always tell them from 6 months up that you got to be average and above. That's your job as a human being. So you're going to be a new man. You're going to be a new woman in this community. You're going to be a leader. You're going to control your destiny from birth to death in areas where you're in the control, where you're the majority of the population. Do you understand me? My 1-year-old, my 10-year-old, my 18-year-old. I do, Dad, Mom. But you got to tell me what you're talking about. And I'm going to tell you then. That's what you tell them. I'm going to make this thing simple. You say, well, young person, first of all, you have to learn things that your peers don't know. You got to work harder than your peers, the young kids that you play around with at church, at school, in the kindergarten, out in the community, in your so-called neighborhoods. My job as your parent is to keep you average or above average. I want you to be the new man, the new woman. So you got to have high standards. And when you get these young people in school, ladies and gentlemen, you have to look at the next thing that is very important. Once you get them in school and they start performing at an average or above average area, you have to encourage those kids, even in kindergarten, that you must learn additional information and you must get involved in at least 2 extracurricular activities. Think about it. One going to be intellectual. Another one going to be sports related. Join the political science club, the cooking club, the civic club, the academic advancement club, the foreign language club, started in kindergarten through high school. And then they're going to get in some kind of sport activity. Football, basketball, tennis, soccer, chess. Or you might even get around to get your child involved in the debate team. Make sure they learn and become members of the honor society. Make sure that your child gets involved in what we call the STEM program and learn about science and math and engineering and the arts. You do that starting in kindergarten. Head Start. A lot of you all send your kids to Head Start when they get a certain age. That's when you start them, folks. Start early. Be consistent. Start with high expectation. And if you see that they are falling behind, find some way to get them some tutoring in areas where they don't have that strong ability, specifically in reading, math, and writing, and communication. Even when they're in kindergarten. It's not going to cost you very much of anything. Matter of fact, it's going to save you a lot of money because these young people are going to be the top students in their school. They're going to be the top performers in the community. They'll be the top people in the church. And they will be the top young people in the community organizations that you get them involved in. Now, how you get them moving in the direction where they can have themselves feeling that they're going to be the new man, the new woman. You have to teach them certain things while they are young, before they even have the ability to think and understand what you are saying. You have to teach them that, son, daughter, you got to learn to work. Your daddy, your mother, your grandmother going to teach you how to work. You got to have a job in this house. It's not all about work, children. You got to learn too to study. You got to learn that it's important when you study that you will have to learn how to earn, how to make some money while you're living up in this house with me. And next thing, you teach them while they are with you, starting in kindergarten, Head Start or whatever, that you're going to have to learn first to serve self. Serve yourself by adhering to the things that your mother and your father and your grandmother are teaching you, that you want to be a new person, the new man, the new woman. Then you put your family first. You get with that little brother or sister once you are a superior person, kindergarten, middle school, high school. You work with your brothers and sisters and teach them the same thing in the same household. And then, folks, everybody in that family start appreciating the fact that they are creating new men, new women. And you'll see where I'm going about the end of this program. You're going to see some changes happening in America, in the world, if you follow this process. Simple. Learning early, working, serving, and being in a position where you just don't feel good unless you're learning something, where you are able to compete and be the best academically, intellectually, in the area where you are attending school, in the area where you live. And then once you start learning and performing, ladies and gentlemen, that child of yours will be recruited by folks in the community to serve in leadership positions in the local church, in the local community organization at 5 and 6 years of age. You'll get the meat of what I'm talking about in a few minutes. It's all about the meat, people. That's the substance that you have to learn. Learn about the meat, the thing that's going to put something in your system that's going to keep you moving strong and ahead. When you get them sharp to the point where they want to be a new person, they want to exhibit their new skills. They want to get out and show people that they can perform. And at that time, your child now is at that point where he is in school. He's in the church school. He's in the community school. Or he's in a public or private school somewhere. And you're going to teach him that same thing. Say, you got to learn, my new person, to get to know your teachers. Talk to your teachers. Create friends that have similar interests that you have. Stay away from the hood rats and the evildoers and unnecessary young people and others in the community that's not thinking the way you're thinking. They want to be a hood rat, but you want to be a new man, a new woman in the community. You want to be the new leader that's going to be made right in this house, right in this local church, right here in this community organization. That's your job, because you're going to continue to learn, to study, to earn, and to work and serve yourself. And once you get in these schools and get that child there, parents, you are going to have to attend these schools, learn what is being taught, look at the curriculum that you've developed in your household, and supplement with whatever the school system will give your child. And at the same time, you ought to have that child getting away from school in the evenings, getting involved in an educational pursuit somewhere in the community. at a local church, at a local community organization. They have all kinds of programs for people that's doing well in school, some that's doing above average. They attend these programs after school because you have said to them, you're going to be the new person. You're going to be the new leader. So here you are in a situation where you're working with the teachers. They have respect for you. You have new friends. They have respect for you. And every time there's a new position coming up in the school, the teacher's going to child need to get involved in this organization. Their friends will be encouraged to participate with them. And then, folks, once you get that child to the point where he believes that he is a new person, a new young male, a new young female, that they are potential rulers and leaders in the community, they're going to want to do that. Every time your child, male or female, get involved in a community organization at the school or in your church or at one of the homeowners association meetings, the neighborhood meeting or wherever, they are going to want to be an officer in the organization. They are going to say, I want to be the assistant to the president. I want to be the secretary. I want to be the head janitor in this organization. Before you start, I want to make sure we have the place clean. I want to take over and get all the lights turned out when you get it done. Put the chairs back in order. That's teaching leadership. You don't have to be in the top position every time, but you need to be in a position where you're performing, where you're learning. Because when you start performing and learning, that's the way you earn, ladies and gentlemen, because somebody's going to give you a paid job sooner or later. Because you know the right people. You're doing the right thing. And when that child gets to this point where he's doing well in school, parents, now you have to do something that most of you don't do. When that child gets in the 6th grade, you have to go and talk to that counselor. And you say, starting in 7th grade, counselor, I want my child to get into the educational arena in a serious manner. I want my child to be prepared to study and take the ACT, the American College Test, starting in the 7th grade, every semester. And if the school don't have a program where they fund it, I will do it myself. You will have your child taking the ACT, an American College Test, 7th grade, once a semester until he finishes high school, unless he takes and makes the top score by the time he is in the 9th or 10th grade. And if he does that, just send him somewhere then to a college and university at age 15 or 16. So that's what you want to do. And this is the result, folks, of setting high standards at home. And the way you start setting high standards at home is to tell your children, and I've mentioned this before, you tell them all of the stuff that I mentioned in that weekly family meeting that you're supposed to have. One evening, usually on the weekend, or Saturday morning, or Saturday evening, or Sunday after church, or Sunday evening sometime. Your kids shouldn't be looking and watching television all the time. They ought to be learning something, learning how to organize themselves, learning how to be a work unit in the house, learn how to support each other. That's what you teach them at home. You set that curfew at home. You set guidelines at home, because I told you earlier, you need to teach them how to work when they're in kindergarten. And you tell that child your job every morning when you get up. Simple things like straighten up your room, make your bed, put things in the boxer wherever you're supposed to put them. Prepare yourself, get yourself cleaned up, and come down for breakfast. Think about it. Have something to feed your child when you're teaching them to learn. That's what Jesus did. Everywhere he went, in most cases, where he talked to the people that were poor and trying to make it, wanting to compete and become a better person, become a better group, to become a better family, to become a better community. He would feed them a little something as he talked to them. You first have to get their attention, saying, parents going to take care of you. Parents going to feed you. Parents going to have you working under some guidelines, under this curfew. You're going to have study time. In this house, you're going to learn and earn. And folks, I'm going to tell you the other part, because we have a commercial coming up in a few minutes. Going to have a little break, and I will get back to part B of part 3. This series has about 5 or 6 parts, might even be as many as 10 as we continue to do the research. So in just a 30-second period, we're going to end this session by saying, take notes. While we're in this period of advertisement, I want you to call someone and tell them to listen to this show. Go to webelievedigital.com/Eldridge Henderson. Organize. Don't criticize. We'll be back in a minute. Stand by.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee. To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
Are you dreaming of becoming an entrepreneur, but you're not sure where or how to start? At Entrepreneurs Academy 101, our online program will guide you step by step on how to start and grow your own business. We offer courses such as how to write a business plan, how to create a budget, and so much more. Our online training program is designed for you to learn at your own pace, and there's no set order to complete this program. Because our academy is online, you have the choice to learn with a group, with friends, or individually. Upon completion of the entire curriculum, you will receive a certificate of achievement to acknowledge that you have completed the training needed to become a successful entrepreneur. So enroll today to design the life that you love. Contact your entrepreneur coach, Brenda Myers, at 601-672-0695 or visit our website at www.entrepreneursacademy101.com for more information.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with the Eldridge Henderson Real News Show, Part B of Part 3, and it might be Part 7, 8, or 9 in the next few weeks, talking about the same thing, teaching you how to create a new man, a new woman, starting in your home with whatever ability you have. There are certain procedures you're going to have to put in place, and you can do it if you have at least a 3rd grade education and recreate a new man, a new man, a new girl, a new person in your home with what you have. And I told you before that when you get these young people, there are certain standards that you have to set. And we got to the point where now your child is about 6th grade, 6th or 7th grade, and he is performing average or above average. If you do those things that I mentioned earlier, he will be at least an A-B student right now in 5th, 6th, and 7th grade, because he has already been taught to start taking the ACT, the American College Test, in the 7th grade, and other national standardized tests. You're going to have the counselors and others to give this student that ACT or the other so-called standardized tests to show their ability in the academics, science, and math and other areas in the 7th grade. And you're going to continue that until they make the top score, 30, 35, 36, 15 and 1600 on other standardized tests. Work keys. They're learning foreign languages. They are learning sign languages. They've already been assigned to what we call chess teams. They have already been working with debate teams at the school, 5th and 6th grade. And if they don't have that in your school, ladies and gentlemen, it's your job to get with your church leaders and have similar programs in the church for your children. Soccer, chess, foreign languages, coding, how to build drones. All of this can be taught on Saturdays and Sunday after church with the aid and support of community organizations of the church. They have their own buildings, and I've been telling you for years, the utilities are owned, they have the space, they have the leaders there, and they have all the volunteers they need to help your child. And then that child of yours, that new man, that new woman that you are training, they will tutor others. The old saying is, let each one teach one. You get a student that's barely making it with a student that's making B's, and put an A student with those and have a peer team of 3. And you work them together. Exchange roles in the group. And in 4 to 6 weeks, they all will be equally based academically, at least about B average, A minus, A plus. You create that new person. Won't have to spend a penny in most cases. Now the next thing you will do, folks, and this is very simple, in order to make sure that you have taught this child something, I told you about the curfews and guidelines in the home, and some of you don't want to do this. You don't want to do it because you're not strong enough to tell your child, we are not going to have visitation during school days, after school at this house. Your friend's not coming over. So we're not going to have but so many minutes of television and telephone usage in this house, Monday through Friday. Very, very limited social media activity on Saturdays and Sundays, because we're going to have this family meeting, and we're going to go to all of these things at least once a week for an hour to an hour and a half. And you're going to repeatedly tell those young people that you're going to be a new man, a new woman. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the idea is to get your kids ready to be the ruler, the leader, the dominator in his community, in his church, in the community organization, starting when he is 13 years of age, 13 to 40, and you'll see what I'm talking about in a few minutes. You want to get them ready between the ages of 13 to 40. And I'll show you how they can dominate, how they can control the area where they are in the majority, started on the precinct level, all over the South, all over the nation, all over the world, because they'll be able to be new people. You have already taught them the languages. You've already taught them the culture. They all know about the STEM programs, math, science, technology. You learn that in your home, in your community organization, through your church programs, through the public and private schools that you tend that child to. And when you do this, ladies and gentlemen, when you have that family meeting, then you can talk to each other. But you first want to do, as I told you, you want to do like Jesus. Before you have that family meeting, you want to eat. You want to prepare a light food, a light dinner, light supper. Call it what you want to call it. Light breakfast, if you do it early in the morning. And have them to start on time. Everyone to be there. Phones in the phone box in the other room. No visitations. Make sure they don't get up and answer that phone when you take that 10-minute break during the first half of that meeting. You sit there during this family meeting, and each one will be asked, what kind of problems did you have this week at school, in the community, at home? They will tell you. Then you as a group will come up with a solution to that problem. And one of the children that has already gotten to the ability where they know how to write and record, they will make a journal of all the family meetings in a bullet point assessment. Not a narrative, long narrative, just bullet. We talked about the following problems. These are the solutions to these problems. And you're going to date it and put a time on it. We'll tell you about this later. And as you eat together and talk about your family problems, ladies and gentlemen, you can be teaching your child to observe mother and father and grandmother so they can learn how to sit there properly at the table and eat, how to cut their food with a knife and fork, how to put the food on the plate properly, how to use the utensils, how to drink the water or milk or whatever they are drinking, and how to put the container back in the proper place. They learn that, folks, in kindergarten. You teach that at home. And then once you have this family meeting and you find the solution to the problem of the child, you ask him, each one of them, including the parents, this is what we talked about, and this is what we learned. You run through everyone in that family meeting. And then at the end of the month, the recorder of the family meetings will give a 5 or 10 minute summary of the previous 4 meetings. Folks, that's the way you do this. And once you do this and get those young people trained, they are looking different, they're walking distance, they are talking different. There's so much respect in the home, there's so much competition in the home, you don't have to worry about your child getting shot in the community. You don't worry about your child being hooked up with a gang, a group of what I call hood gang bangers. You don't have to worry about that child shoplifting because you're going to feed them at home and talk to them and let them know that we don't do that. No matter what your associates are doing, that I don't allow to come to this house, and that's why, because they are not trained like you. I want you to be average or above average. I want you to be a new man. I want you to be a new young lady. I want you to be a ruler in this community because I want you to change your status, your family, and your community so you can have more than a neighborhood. Now, folks, when you get them to this point, you have a dangerous situation on your hand. That young person, that new person, is getting ready to become dangerous. They have energy like a racehorse. They've been fed on the best oats. They've been drinking that good water from the spring. They're ready to get involved in the community. They're ready to go to the school and take over that organization and be the best performer, the best communicator, the best note taker, the best representative, because the teachers know they can perform. They'll be recommending that student to go to nearby schools and represent their school. The church will do the same. We'll be sending that child of yours to the local, regional, and state conventions and the national conventions. The community organizations, the neighborhood associations, and others, and other youth groups. We'll be telling your child, you must be the leader of this organization. You're going to be the president. You're going to be the secretary. You're going to be the program director at 13, 10, 11, 12, because they can stand and talk and make a presentation, talking in full sentences. So when they get about 13 to 40, then there's something else going to happen. If you listen to me now, folks, you can do it. You have the resources to do it. You already have them at the point where they know they are superior to everyone else. And some of you say, I don't want my child to think he is superior. Well, if you don't, you have a problem there. If you don't want them to think they're superior, you just have them to think and train them to say, I can do a little better than most every day in the area where I've been trained. If you don't want to think that they feel that they are superior and better than others. So now when they get 13 up through age 40, with this new man on your hand, they're going to be dangerous, because then you're going to do something different. You're going to encourage them to leave home and start being leaders in the community. You will be working with your churches and your community organization, and you will set up what we call leadership programs or leadership initiatives. And there are certain strategies and designs that I'm going to share with you now. So you will have the young person, 13 to 40, coming into new positions of responsibility at that young age. And you will start finding that the old leaders right now that are running the homes, the churches and the community organizations, the schools, the politicians appointed and elected, will start fading out, because they're not going to be able to compete with those young folks. Because I guarantee you, your current preachers, your current elected and appointed officials, your current leadership in the corporate industry, not going to train your child to take over. That's your responsibility. You get him in a position where he is able to control things, where he can manage programs and people, he will automatically get that position of responsibility. And that old leader there will just sit back and allow him to do it, because he is more trained. He is more professional. And he has the ability to become a leader, more so than the person that is elected or appointed. Because most of your leaders today, folks, are controlled by outside public interest groups. They are financed by those people. Therefore, they have to endorse their programs and not yours in the community. They are encouraged to be ineffective. They are encouraged to fight among themselves. Others are given special favors to always come in opposition when something is getting ready to happen in your community that's going to be for your betterment. Some of you don't want to believe me, but most of you know that it's correct. People are trained to do this, paid to do this, want to do it in many instances, if they are not paid, to be dominant, want to control the same thing 30, 40, 50 years. And if you have the same leader controlling your church, your school, your community for 30 or 40 years, progress will start being diminished to the point where others will come in and take over. Because I told you, they're already financing those folks. And they're not going to be able to do the things they need to promote growth and productivity in your community. So now when you get to that age that I mentioned earlier, 13, you then will start doing something different. You'll start going to your churches and your community organizations, and you're going to set up training programs for your children. The same thing you taught them at home. Academics, discipline, leadership skills, how to take responsibility through work. Going to teach them the same thing in the church and in these community organizations. And once you get them there, folks, they are going to shine, because they are new people. They are new males and females. And that's when you can really look at your potential leadership, and you start looking at those individuals, and then you start looking at them as a group. Two things. Always look at new leaders as individuals first, and then you look at them as a group. And that will determine what programs you're going to have in your church first, and then in your community organizations. So you get them there, and you have to create some kind of mechanism where you're going to support these people. So at this point, you then, as parents, as community members of the church, as community members of community organizations, you are then going to pool your resources. You're going to pool your talents and get with those young people, and all of you all are going to teach each other how to start changing your community gradually in education and training, in religion, in principles of leadership, in economic development, and politics. And in order to do this, you don't have to be begging the government and other organizations for foundation grants and government programs. They will have some, because if you get these young people involved in government, I'm going to show you in a few minutes how you can get all the money you want from government, from church organizations and other groups. But initially, you're not going to get it, so you have to pool your resources and your talents, and then you build what we call strategic non-binding coalitions with other groups, with other churches, on the denominational level, with the elected and appointed officials, with the corporate leaders. That's when you get them to send their resources and their talents. This is just an outline, so I'm not going to get you involved with too much organization at this point. We will get each item later on and tell you specifically how to do this in the home, in the school, in the community, on the state, national, international level, as we all go on to the various parts. So once you get these young folks from 13 to 40 years of age in these various positions of responsibility, they have this pooled resources and talents. You build these non-binding coalitions with the other groups. And I say non-binding, that means, folks, you're going to have others to work with you and support you with their resources, with their talents, but you're not going to have them dominating you. They're going to be supporting you. You're not going to allow them to come in and change your programs like they did during the civil rights era. You don't want that. If they can't support you and not try to direct you in the way you need to go, you don't want to work with them. You want supporters, not policy makers. You want people that's interested in what you want. That is, to be a new person, to be a new leader, to be one that's going to take over and control their destiny from birth to death for the next 300 years. So once this has happened, these young people then have already been trained. They're getting on up in age now, 13 to 40. They've already been trained to set up their own business when they are in middle school and high school and college. They've already been trained to be leaders. So you will have the next group. Everyone in your family ought to have his or her own business when they're in middle school through college, doing something, whatever area they have the most expertise in. That's what they need to do. Incorporate your child's business in your name until he turns 18. That's another story. That's another program. And once you do this, folks, you will then have your child at the point where when he's turned 17 and a half, the first thing he's going to be telling you, Mom, Dad, Grandmother, I got to get down here and register so I can vote, because I want to get in these positions of responsibility. I might want to become a politician. I might want to become the priest in my community. I might want to become a corporate giant in this community. Since I have a business, I might want to be able to expand statewide or get me an international business and have a branch in Asia, have another in Africa, have one in Europe, have another branch in Latin America. I might want to set up a company in space. Your child, 13 to 40, can all be done with limited resources if you pool them and if you have your own talents. You don't have to beg others that want you to be at the bottom of the barrel. Keep you down at the bottom of that barrel, telling you what to do, financing your operations. You don't want to do that, folks. That's what got you in your situation you're in today. You're letting the outsiders come in and determining your destiny in education, in training, in religion, in economic development, and politics, from birth to death, versus you doing it for yourself. Now, once you get those young people ready and get them all registered to vote, you're going to teach them, and they will already know how to manage the voting roll, how to keep the recruits. Every time one is old enough to vote, they'll know who that person is, where he is, what organization, what school, what church he is affiliated with. And it'll just be automatic that they go and register. And since you are so highly organized, they're going to have monthly meetings in some of these organizations where they will be talking about civic education and the responsibility of that citizen that you train in that home. And every time there's an election, they're going to vote. Every time. In every runoff. Because your candidate is going to be in there. And you're going to be expecting your candidate to win. So you're going to have them all registered. And you're going to learn how to manage the voting roll. And then, folks, you're going to have to do something that a lot of you black people don't want to do. And that is to vote regardless of political party for whatever the issue is that's going to promote your interests, regardless of who the candidate is or what party he or she is associated with. And since this is the end of part 3 of how to create that new child, how to build and make that new leader move forward, we're just going to have to say, we're going to have to slow down. We don't have but 30 seconds left, and we'll come with part 4 next time, which might be Thursday this week. We will have another part on Friday this week, and additional parts on next Tuesday, next Thursday, and next Friday. So I want to thank you all for listening, folks. We're going down now to at number 7 on how to create that new man and how to raise that successful child. And I'm talking about your child in your home. I'm not talking about that middle-class child. I'm talking about in a home where the parent has a good, strong third-grade education or higher, where there's a mother and a dad or a grandmother or somebody in there that's serving as the leadership provider in that home. So, folks, if you want to hear more, all you have to do is call us at 601-201-1957. Or you can email us at clu369@gmail.com and ask questions, give us some comments, and tell us how to improve, and tell us what you want us to put on the agenda for some of the other topics. And tell us, look, I hear you, and I want you to invite me to come on your show because I have something I want to say. I'm a member or a leader of a family, of a church. I'm one of the leaders of the community organization. I'm a member of the faculty at the college or university. I am a school teacher. I'm on the school board. I'm just a regular John Doe in the community, and I want to come on your show and talk about the other side on how to solve these problems. And if you want to do that, folks, all you have to do is call me direct at 601-201-1957, and we'll give you a chance to become a new man, a new leader. And all I want you to do, have at least a third-grade education, and we can take you and make you the president. So until next time, I want you to remember, this is the L. Henderson Real News Show. Organize, don't criticize the human enemies of mankind. They love it, and they'll keep you down. Until next week, I'll see you. Thank you very much.